You ever been to a Radio Shack?
Oh, I definitely have. You still see all the things on the wall, all the hangers.
You may be as close to like a targeted demo.
Radio Shack was one of my favorite places to go to in the mall, usually. I used to love to play with the computers. Radio Shack had their own line of computers, the Tandy line, which I have a number of.
Exclusively at Radio Shack stores and Tandy computer centers.
I grew up with a Tandy. My parents were sold one in '89. They bought it for my sister. And I believe it was at Radio Shack. And the salesman said, if you make this $3,000 investment in 1989, it will get your children through college. They will use this through college.
The Radio Shack computer. Okay, switch on to be in the back. Oh, no. On the side.
Of course, my parents were brand new to technology, and they knew that. And so they just, encouraged my sister. They were like, I don't know, call them. And she was like, call who? She was like 6. They're like, call who? They're like, call them and ask them how it works. The operating system was a DeskMate.
Yep, DeskMate.
The new Tandy 1000, complete with DeskMate software for easy-to-use word processing, filing, worksheets, scheduling.
It was a neat thing for the time.
Oh, it was a GUI.
You know? Yeah, it made...
Or a TUI.
It made computing a lot easier at a time when Windows wasn't yet known to people.
I wonder why DeskMate didn't take off, come to think of it.
I think it was because Radio Shack didn't want to license it to anybody except Tandy. And as PC compatibles became ubiquitous, you couldn't get DeskMate for your non-Radio Shack computer.
Crazy to think there was this computing era pre-Microsoft.
There totally was. It was not just always a duopoly between Apple and Microsoft Windows.
What was the appeal of Radio Shack? Was it comparable with Circuit City?
No, it was very different. It had a ton of small electronics.
Peripherals.
I remember going there to get audio cables, XLR cables, remote control cars.
Yeah, sound systems were a big...
Yep, science toys, resistors, capacitors, electronic components.
I know I've done a good job when a customer comes in looking for that little gizmo and he leaves the store with that exact thing. And I know I've done a great job when he leaves the store with that little gizmo and a cellular phone.
That's how you earn the money.
How were their prices?
I mean, in the era of modern internet, not comparable at all. But in the time period where there were no other stores at all, and you would have to otherwise mail away for it. You know, what a ridiculous concept. It was for hobbyists at the beginning especially, and then eventually owning home electronics has kind of disappeared. You know, a stereo system or anything like that, largely replaced by the phone.
And they were also small.
They were all small unit format, focused on their particular market, right?
I remember my dad worked with a guy named Lenny.
Yeah.
And he was the only nerd my dad knew. And he, too, was like a big guy who knew everything.
Wore shorts all year long.
And nobody else knew anything. You know, it took me a few years before I met John.
Yeah.
But I eventually got my own Lenny.
I'm your Lenny.
You ever miss it, or do you feel like, the internet's got me?
I miss it for if I'm working on an old computer and I need a component. Right now I got to order it. And if I order it from China, it's 50 days. Online, I'm going to pay $10 for a component. I used to be able to get 30 cents there. Yes. Or another thing that I really love from them was electronics kits, like the 101 kit where you could build projects with wires.
As a child, I found it a bit boring because I didn't know what the hell to do with any of it.
I loved it because I kind of had an understanding. Circuit City kind of became Best Buy. Best Buy was their improved form. Radio Shack never had any other iterations. There's nowhere now that sells stuff like they used to sell.
Because it's really just an internet thing.
Yeah.
And there's just too many damn parts. What would you stock?
Yeah, you stock everything. There's still a few stores throughout the U.S., but nothing around here we could go to that stocks stuff like they used to.
What I like, it's the closest thing electronic stores ever had to their own hardware store.
That's right.
The Home Depot of
electronics.
Yeah.
It originated from hobbyists who wanted to make radios, get components for their radios.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
Rip.
Radio Shack. You've got questions, we've got answers.